Hello all. Welcome again. So let's get back to Kathmandu and see what are the things the author Vikram Seth enjoyed on his stay in Kathmandu. So you came to know that he was enjoying a lot. What did he say? I indulge. What is that he say? The word indulge. Indulge is to enjoy happily himself. What was he taking? By a bar of marzipan, a sweet made with grated almond and corn cob roasted on the charcoal, and then applying red chili powder and then salt and lemon juice and so many things, and really very happy taking Coca-Cola and orange drink. Now let us get back to the fifth paragraph, what he wants to convey over here. He talks more about, which he really engrossed and enjoyed. He really enjoyed that. What it was, we'll see from the paragraph 5 onwards. I consider what route I should take back home. If I were propelled by enthusiasm for travel per se, I would go by bus and train to Patna, then sail up the Ganges past Benares to Allahabad, then up the Yamuna past Agra to Delhi. But I am too exhausted and homesick. Today is the last day of August. Go home, I tell myself. Move directly towards home. I enter a Nepal Airlines office and buy a ticket for tomorrow's flight. So now, how I should go home, back home. Now his consideration was totally focused on back to home. So how I should go, the route. Now he decided from which place to which place and a roundabout how he should go back to his home. If I were propelled, geared up, propelling, okay. So what he wanted to do, he wanted to propel means here he wanted to go. And then by enthusiasm, he was geared up by enthusiasm. Enthusiasm, great excitement, a lot of excitement for travel. He has got lot of enthusiasm, excitement towards travel. So what he wants to do here, he wants to pursue means by travel itself is his more enjoyment. So he wanted to go by bus and train to Patna. Then from there, sail up the Ganges in the boat or a ship and past Benares to Allahabad. See the route, which are the places on the way from his Kathmandu to the hometown. Then up the Yamuna, past Agra to Delhi. Delhi is the place. Now he is in Noida. But I'm too exhausted. He was so tired up and homesick. So at the same time, maybe he was for a long time he was away from his hometown. So he wanted to go back. He became quite sick thinking about his parents and the home. And today is the last day of August. The month is also going to end up. Go home. So he is instructing himself, telling himself, come on, how many days you stay out? Go back home, he told to himself. Move directly towards home. Why again a long road? Go back straight away home. I enter the Nepal Airlines office and buy a ticket for tomorrow's flight. So immediately I just took a ticket towards my that means the place where he return journey. Okay. In the next paragraph, I look at the flute seller standing in the corner of the square near the hotel. So now his attention was drawn towards a flute seller. He was standing in the corner of the square, a street near the hotel. In his hand is a pole with an attachment at the top from which 50 or 60 bansuris protrude in all directions like the quills of a porcupine. So, now he is trying to tell what he was holding in his hand. It's a stick, a bamboo stick we can say. Okay, a pole otherwise. And it an attachment. It is around about, there were many flutes. Okay, many. Around how many? 50 to 60 bansuris. Bansuris is the name used for it is the flute. In Hindustani it is called as bansuri. Okay, so many. Protrude means project out. Okay, protrude means here they are projecting out. Okay, then what did he just tell that he compare these bansuris which are projecting or protruding all the sides in all directions. What did he say here? Like the quills. Quill means sharp spines of a porcupine. Okay. Hedgehog also you will say to that. Okay. They are of a bamboo. So naturally the bansuri is made out of a hollow tube, bamboo tube. Okay. There are cross flutes and recorders. So now he is telling there are varieties of flutes over there. And then they are, from time to time he stands the pole on the ground, selects a flute and plays for a few minutes. So out of every 50 to 60 he is picking out one and he starts playing that music. Okay. The sound rises clearly above the noise of the traffic and the hawker's cries. So he was playing in such a tune that it is just subsiding the sounds of the hawkers as well as the traffic sounds. But above all, he could clearly hear the melodious tunes played by the flute player. He plays slowly, meditatively, without excessive display. So how he was playing that? He was really playing it in a very slow manner. Very nicely, meditatively, as if he is in a deep meditation. What is that? You call that? He totally devoted himself. Very thoughtfully, very nicely, he was playing the bansuri. Without excessive display. He is not at all bothered whether others are watching him, whether a group of people came, surrounded him. All these things are immaterial to him. He totally engrossed, absorbed in playing the music. Totally not at all bothered what was going around. He does not shout out his wares. So now he is not standing over there, come on play, buy my... No, he did not at all. He did not ask anyone. Okay. Occasionally he makes a sale. Once in a while anybody is interested, come forward and ask him. He used to sell the bansuri. Occasionally, but in a curiously off-handed way, as if this were incidental to his enterprise. So offended. Off-handed means so casual. Not much interest in selling or not. He is just standing over there in that corner and he's totally involved in the playing tunes. If somebody likes it and coming and asking him, he's selling them. It's not that like other hawkers, he's not demanding or commanding anyone to buy his things. Okay. Sometimes he breaks off playing to talk to the fruit seller. Once in a while, he used to stop playing the bansuri or the flute, the instrument, and then involve himself in the talk to the fruit seller who was very close to him. I imagine that this has been the pattern of his life for years. This has been means what? That playing, not bothered, not shouting, not attracting the people by calling them. He was just standing over there. Whoever comes and buys, that's all. He never demands anyone to buy. He enjoys himself playing the flute, different ones and different tunes very nicely. Now, I find it difficult to tear myself away from the square. So he was so nice. He was so, totally happened to listen to it. So he could not move away from there. Flute music always does this to me. He cannot just break up and, oh, come on, let me go inside. I don't want to. I want to go with other things. No. He got stuck to the ground and the music was pulling him towards that melody, the beautiful sound. Many a times it happened to him. It is at once that most universal and most particular of sounds. So, it is universal. What he says, it is universal, liked by everyone, the music. Okay, naturally everybody will be lending their ears for the music. Everywhere, everyone, whatever the tune, automatically the leg taps on the ground to the rhythm of the music. It was his liking it very much. And most particular of sounds. There is no culture that does not have its flute. So everywhere, every country, throughout the world, there are their traditions and this particular flute. Maybe it has got different names, different structure, sizes. But the sound always will be the same. That's why he mentioned over there universal. The most universal, superlative degree he used. Okay. So now he is giving different kinds of flutes. The reed ney, the recorder, the Japanese shakuhachi, the deep bansuri of Hindustani classical music, the clear of breathy flutes of South America, the high-pitched Chinese flutes. So altogether he has given, what is that? The reed ney, one, the recorder, the Japanese shakuhachi, deep bansuri, Hindustani, and then clear breathy flutes of South America, the high-pitched Chinese flute. Altogether, he mentioned 5 kinds of different flutes played in different countries. Each has its specific fingering and compass. What is that fingering? The way of you touching the holes that were made in order to play different notes. Notes, you know, the musical, like for every origin it is that sa, re, ga, ma in Hindustani music. Okay, so it was given over here. And then compass. Compass means here the range, the pitch, what you can say. It weaves its own associations. It starts making its own sounds and all. Okay. Now let us see what he just tells us. He extends what he talks about. Yet, to hear any flute is, it seems to me, to be drawn into the commonality of all mankind. So what is he saying over here? Commonality. Commonality means it's commonness. What is the meaning of commonality? It is the commonness of mankind, of all the mankind. It's a noun over here. And to be moved by music closest in its phrases and sentences to the human voice. So now, okay, he's talking about the different sounds, different variations, different high-pitched and specific and particular range which creates a context at the links drawn are attracted toward the common points of the human beings. So, and it will be motive force. What did he say? It is the moved by music and about the human voice. Its motive force too is living breath. So, what is that motive force? The force that is responsible to play the flute is also human breath. You have to blow air into the flute and just lift and close again the holes that were given. 7 holes every instrument will have. So when is just closing and opening of this and throwing your breath into the tube will produce beautiful rhythmic sounds, melodious sounds. It too needs to pause and breathe before it can go on. So it also needs to pause, stop. Okay. That I can be so affected by few familiar phrases on the bansuri. Phrases? The sounds, the words often heard. Okay. Surprises me at first. For on the previous occasions that I have returned home after a long absence abroad, I have hardly noticed such details and certainly have not invested them with the significance I now do. So now he became very familiar with. Okay, familiar is known with. Okay, the different sounds produced by on the bansuri, some surprises. It really brings about a kind of amazement to him at first. But on the previous occasions, the events when he happened to, surely he's observed there is some importance. Now he understood that there is some kind of importance in this particular instruments. Okay. Now, let us see whether the title of this, what is the title? Kathmandu he has given. So, the title Kathmandu is not going to specify what the author is going to state about the capital city of Nepal. He did not mention, or you cannot click. But, however, as we know that it is the narration of a part of journey that the writer Vikram Seth undertook from Heaven Lake in China to India, we expect to know more about Kathmandu. When he just started his journey like this, we can expect that, he's going to, maybe he's just going to give more details about the Kathmandu. Still, with the author's main focus on the 2 famous temples. Now, he did not say much about the capital city, but he just mentions only 2 temples, very important places. Okay, and a brief description regarding his general impression about Kathmandu. And this title stands justified. When you think, when he has given the title Kathmandu, then you can really say that it is justified because he was talking only about 2 temples that were present over. It is the general description of the temples. The contents of this chapter, what you come across, although they do not have any descriptive kind of suggestion by the title, still he made the title apt, as it is signifying the main objective of the writer, what he wants to convey. Say thereby, the title Kathmandu is the appropriate. Apt means appropriate title. And now let us get back to the main central idea of the lesson, Kathmandu. So, the central idea of this brief extract from Vikram Seth's travelogue, Heaven Lake, is glimpses of Kathmandu. These are nothing but the quick looks. Whatever you see, a brief look. Especially the famous Pashupati temple, sacred to the Hindus, and the Bodhanath Stupa, a holy place for the Buddhists. Then his experiences in two temples form a kind of commentary on the two ways of worship and two cultures. Did you observe that? Yeah. And another aspect of Kathmandu that forms the sub-theme is the general environment of this place. The author, Vikram Seth, briefly trying to discuss the markets and the roads, etc. of Kathmandu, and also add a few aesthetic remarks about the musical instrument flute after listening to a flute seller playing the musical instrument. So this is the central idea what you get from this maximum. Nothing very much, but he felt that a variation between two temples. One is too noisy, one is too quiet. That is what he observed over here. And I'll give a little more information about Vikram Seth, which I just wanted to give you. He is a poet, novelist, librettist, and travel writer. So he was from India, and he has got some kind of versatility of his style and the brilliance of his generic ventriloquism. You know what is ventriloquism? Have you got an idea, my dears, what is ventriloquism? Have you ever seen that? It is a kind of the person will not be seen talking, but he hold a kind of a small soft toy, and he'll be trying to, without opening mouth, he'll be talking to us, expressing to us. So this really a very beautiful thing what you come across about Vikram Seth, a well-known NRI writer, and he was appointed as a trustee of the British Museum, and he was awarded an honorary commander of British Empire CBE in 2001, including by framing or similar meaning is expressed prohibited with the meaning of this. So this is about the Vikram Seth. I just wanted to give a brief account about him, more account. So this is the lesson, and did you just see how many awards and rewards he has got? We should be very proud of an Indian writer, and he has written so many poems too. In the state board, you do not know, in state board, there the previous time, it was The Frog and the Nightingale. He has written, and he brings about the natural tendency, the jealous and all things about a frog and the nightingale, how people will be influenced by the flattery. So very beautifully, if you happen to see that, you just browse the net and go about it. Very beautiful poem. You come to know how you come across so many people like frogs in our lives. Frogs are they will be talking to you very sweetly, but they try to bring you down. They demoralize you. They totally remove your confidence. It's a very beautiful poem. I loved it. I hope you also like it. Okay, children. Bye for now. Love you all. Have a nice time. Bye-bye.